What happens when the healer hits a wall? When the one who's always strong, the high achiever, the fixer, the go-to problem solver, starts to go numb inside? In this powerful episode, I sit down with Dr. Pamela Buchanan, a purpose-driven physician and burnout recovery coach, whose story is as raw as it is resilient. She opens up about what it means to navigate medicine during the COVID-19 pandemic and how she found her way back from emotional flatline. Dr. Buchanan gets real about the hidden cost of white coats, the stigma surrounding mental health in our field, and why she's fiercely committed to helping other physicians stay in practice without sacrificing themselves. She loves to teach people to stand in their power. You'll leave this conversation feeling seen, stirred, and without a doubt, more hopeful. Find the full transcript and more resources for physician moms at inspiredmommds.com/56. You're listening to Inspired Mom MDs with host Cindy Van Prague, helping physician moms take back control and prioritize what matters most so they thrive in private practice and at home. Hi there, and thank you for joining me today. This is a special episode where my guest, Dr. Pamela Buchanan, and I sit down and talk. Dr. Buchanan is a board-certified physician, author, and keynote speaker. She's dedicated to helping women physicians and executives overcome burnout and thrive in their careers. She has 2 decades of experience in emergency and private practice medicine and understands the relentless pressures of high-stakes professions and the toll that they can take on mental and physical well-being. As a burnout recovery coach, Dr. Buchanan's mission is to keep more physicians in practice in a healthy, sustainable way because not everyone can or should quit. She also helps high-achieving professionals reclaim their purpose, set boundaries, and build careers that support their well-being instead of depleting it. She is also author of a book called White Coat, Black Face: How to Recover from Your Emotional Flatline. It's a memoir that chronicles her career, the pandemic, and the challenges of navigating medicine as a Black female physician. Dr. Buchanan is also the founder of Strong Medicine, STL. That's a telemedicine practice which specializes in weight loss and wellness. She is passionate about equipping professionals with the tools to stay well, to thrive, and redefine success on their own terms. Listen in. Good morning, Dr. Buchanan. I'm so happy to see you here.
I'm so happy to be here. I've been flying all night, and I'm just glad to be seeing your smiling face.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to see your smiling face, which is impressive after flying all night.
I smile because I'm out of the airport. It is probably one of my least favorite places.
I agree. And on the airplane, I don't know which is worse. I just let everybody know a bit of your history in the intro to today's episode so they know all about you. So I'm just going to dive right in with questions, if that's okay.
Wow. For people to know all about me, usually it's the other way around.
I know, you're in the other seat now. So you're obviously a physician, and so your journey in medicine has been deeply personal and filled with multiple challenges. Can you share a bit about your path in medicine and how it led you to what you were doing today?
So my path, I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 12. My pediatrician was so cool. I grew up in like a lower middle class to poor African-American community. And there weren't many Black doctors. My doctor was Dr. Nash, and she always poured into me. She was now I know as an adult, she was a community advocate. And she told me that I did not have to succumb to the things that other people may succumb, like any crime or teen pregnancy, and that I should think about what I wanted to do. And I was like, I like science. I am neurodivergent. And when I was younger, I learned differently. People weren't kind in the 80s. They would say, well, I think she is slow. And then we all know that's not the way to describe things. And my mother said she was an advocate before people were really being big advocates for this type of thing. She said she learns differently. I was tested. I'm good at math and science, and I had to work at verbal skills. And so I went to offsite gifted classes, and that was what changed everything for me. Just getting into the right space so that I could learn it, so I could learn the way that suits me. Now I know I'm an active learner. I can't just sit for hours and hours. I do things like sit on a ball when I'm working and walk around. And you have to learn those things. Now it's mainstream. My kids get those activities at school. So from there, I wanted to become a doctor. I went on to go to medical school and try to figure out what kind of doctor I want to be. I like helping. I like prevention. I like really making a difference, but I also like the fast pace. And so I'm training in family medicine, but I practice emergency medicine my whole career. I do emergency medicine now predominantly. It was better for my family, the shift work. But boy, does that burn you out. It is a grind. When I first started, the average life expectancy of an ER doctor is 10 years. I hear that it's now 7, which is wild to me, to go to school all that time only to be able to work for 10 years. I've been practicing for 20. But it's had its challenges. Of course, we all know the pandemic. The pandemic exacerbated the things we already knew were wrong with medicine. Like, not enough people, even more quit. And so you got the stressors of being overworked and overwhelmed. We have patients boarding in the ER for hours, sometimes days, because there's no bed. There is a physical bed, but there's nobody to work the bed. Like, there's not a nurse. And so I'm practicing medicine, and I'm quite frankly not trained to practice, because I'm practicing as a hospitalist and sometimes as an intensivist because the patients are stuck in the ER. And so, as you can imagine, that's causing myself and many of my colleagues not to want to do this anymore. But what frustrates me the most is administration not understanding that just throwing money at the situation is not the answer. You have to treat people like humans. And I wish that's what they would get through their head. Not cogs in the wheel, but humans. And currently, I choose to work at a smaller facility now. I still work very PRN, even though I'm doing other work, because they treat me like a human. And they treat everybody like that. They kind of know a lot of nuances of everybody's story. Who's Christian? Who's Muslim? Who wants to be off on Ramadan? Who wants to be off on Christmas? And I think that is something that they have figured out of necessity, because they're competing with hospitals who can pay more. But I would sure gladly take pay cut for the kind of humanity I experience at this hospital. So, and then you take all those things coupled with sexism and racism, it makes life trying.
I bet everyone wants to know what hospital you're working at, so they're going to apply there.
You know what? I'm in Missouri, and this is a small hospital. So it's an hour outside from my city, and I'll gladly drive there because it's called St. Genevieve. It's a small little rural community. And I've never experienced a workplace like this kind.
Wow. Wow, that sounds like a dream, to work in a place that treats you like a human when you're a physician.
I've worked at, throughout my career, at least 6 different hospitals, and I've never experienced it like this. So I'm like taking notes. So it's like somebody needs to write a standard operating procedure. But it's mainly the management that they've really figured it out.
And that needs to spread.
Not the CEOs, it's the clinical management who figured it out.
So you said since you were age 10 or 12 with Dr. Nash, you wanted to be a physician, and you made it.
12 years old, right around 6th grade.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I know you're going to get to the point where you experienced burnout, or did you? And just tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. I definitely experienced burnout, hit the brick wall. Yeah. During the pandemic, I was working at a different hospital, and this was more of a grind until you die hospital. Yeah. And it's a system, and I traveled to the different hospitals. And during the pandemic, no one knew what to do, right? Let's be honest. Things were changing. We're on the front lines. And I remember when they said ibuprofen would be deadly to the patients. Yeah, that was a thing. We were trying to control fevers, and we have some people who are allergic to acetaminophen, and we're like, what to do? So just navigating what clinical practices to do and the overwhelm of the patient population. So I was on staff at a rural hospital in an hour and a half outside of St. Louis. And at first it was dead. Radio silence, like, okay, the pandemic is just in New York. But all of a sudden, like an avalanche, because I'm in an area where they don't believe in COVID. Just really don't. I mean, like fighting words. And
Yeah.
so nobody was really following the restrictions in this town. In fact, they had a big wedding, and we named it the Red Wedding afterwards, because what happened was, after this wedding of about 200 people, the bride came in, the mother-in-law, and one after the other, COVID. And several people died, all from being in contact at this wedding. And that began the pandemic in this community. And so it's bad in the cities, but in the rural areas, the resources are less. I oftentimes joke that I'm trying to put someone together with some bubble gum and shoestring. I don't have what I need. There's a lot of MacGyvering going on. You know, it's not like, you don't have what you have when you're, where I trained in residency, we called that place the Palace on Ballast, because it was fancy. It had all the things,
Yes. Oh,
They
yeah.
even had a chef that made steaks.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's how I trained. And then I come to this place and I'm like, well, you don't have this, you don't have this, and you don't have that. So that's what I was dealing with. That couple, so we're working 80-hour weeks, really. And so I remember one week I clocked 100. And I never got sick. I never got COVID. You can wear that like a badge of honor, but many of my colleagues got really sick. A good amount of my colleagues, even though they were physicians, didn't believe in COVID. Like, weren't going into rooms, masked, had nose out, and got really sick. One in the ICU, one ended up on oxygen. And so what happens? They call you, they say, can you fill in? Can you fill in? And quite frankly, I was afraid to be home. My son has Crohn's and he's on an immunosuppressant. We didn't know how that worked then. And I was afraid that if I contacted him, breathed on him, I could kill my kid. Or, give it to my other kid. My other son has asthma. We weren't sure what happens there.
Right.
So the isolation, plus it looked like the apocalypse as you drive into work. It's like something out of a movie. Maybe a bad car wreck every few months. You lose a patient every few months. Like someone really unexpected. You might lose an elderly person who's been on a journey with cancer. And you experience that differently than a mother. I really empathize with mothers who die and their children are left without a mother. As it makes you think about your own family.
Yeah.
And so the death, I got to me, the loss and the feeling like I wasn't able to help. Usually I can figure something out. We weren't able to help, and we didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden I started having nightmares, and I felt like, why do I even do this? Why? And then as I'm driving to work, I'm like, why do anything? And that's when, see it on yourself when it's happening to you. I could diagnose it on my patient. But I came to work one day and everyone was talking about one of our colleagues who committed suicide. Did you hear about? No way, because this guy was smart, great ER doctor. He was instrumental in my training. He had a beautiful wife and kids and he posted, "It's all going to be okay" on Facebook like a few days ago. So it was shocking. That's when I knew I'm not okay. I need to get some help. My kids don't deserve that, because it's so insidious. You never know what you might do. So that's when I got some help, and I realized how hard it is to get mental health help. I mean, nobody took my insurance. I couldn't find anybody. Of course, therapists are not working during COVID. And then I was afraid about losing my license, because you didn't make a multiple six-figure salary. And, I have children and a family and a mortgage. And what if they take my license? So I was afraid to get help. I finally did, because I was afraid more of dying. And therapy was like air. And I highly recommend it. I did therapy, and moreover, what helped me more than therapy was a coach, because your therapist, she knew all the clinical things and helped me get on Wellbutrin and all of those things. But the coach got me. She was like, I know those long hour days and the ER shifts. Like, nobody gets a doctor like a doctor gets a doctor. And most people think we're crazy, And in a way, we are. It is. When you look back over your training and what you did to get here, it is superhuman and quite toxic, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so just my journey on getting healthy mentally, I'm so thankful for a sound mind. It's something we take for granted. And I'm thankful that I was able to keep my license. And so with that being said, I want to help other people through that. And that's why I joined the Lorna Breen Foundation as an ambassador, because I just believe in that mission. And I was like, I don't know why that's not, I don't know, some widespread idea that is ubiquitous in news, in in media, but it's just in the undercurrent. Like one doctor a day is committing suicide. That's a whole medical class.
Right. And just briefly, for those who may not be aware of the Lorna Breen Foundation, say what you do for them.
So I'm an ambassador, so that means I help spread the message. I will help sometimes in fundraising campaigns and, speak and do those types of things. So the Lorna Breen Foundation was made after an ER physician during the pandemic. She committed suicide for all the reasons I just described. You have no idea how taxing being a doctor is, and the emotional distress that goes along with that, and just personhood. So being a person in and of itself is hard, but being the person that's tasked with saving lives and healing, it adds another weight.
Right. And part of that foundation, I understand, is to help physicians get over the stigma of reaching out for help and making it so that they don't have to worry about losing their license and taking the checkbox off the list. Like, have you ever been treated for mental health illness?
I am so thankful for that, because that, I think we're at about half of the states now to where that's taken off, that checkbox, have you ever had a mental illness? Because, listen, I believe that the way that should go is if you have a psychiatrist and they feel the need to report you, then they should. Because mental illness everyone will have a bout of depression. It's just, there's nobody who gets past that. It's just about most of the population. I had to go get help under a pseudonym, and I pay cash because I just was so afraid.
Yeah. That was my next question, is what did you do to you said you were afraid of dying more than you were of losing your license. So that was your motivation, but how did you actually do it?
I went to see the therapist, and I said, I don't want this on my record. I just want to pay cash. And when I saw my primary care to get medication, I was like, do not put depression in my chart. It's an adjustment disorder. I said, I can't have that right now.
Right, exactly. And that's how you got out. Yeah.
And my doctor fully understood. She nodded. She's like, for sure.
Yeah. And that still goes on today. I mean, well.
Oh, yeah.
COVID wasn't that long ago. So, yeah.
I know people act like it was. It was literally yesterday,
It was right in the grand scheme.
We don't need to forget. I feel like we're starting to forget. And I'm like, that's a dangerous place to be.
It's still fresh. Yeah. And you wrote a powerful memoir, and it's, I believe, called White Coat, Black Face, How to Recover from Your Emotional Flatline. Where does that fall in your timeline? When did you write that?
Oh, it comes out in April. So it's brand new, but it's basically about, kind of chronicles my TED Talk. And the TED Talk I did was about how I grew up neurodivergent. And people were just calling it not right and slow in my community. I grew up, African-American community. African-American community is slow to accept mental illness or any type of cognitive deficits, just anything that is abnormal. And it's stigmatized really heavily. And I know that's true of the general population, but even more so concentrated in the African-American culture. So people were very unkind. I remember being with my mother and people saying, what's wrong with her? Is she slow or something? And I heard that so many times that I thought it felt like part of my identity until my mom had me go to places, not that I now know were therapeutic places, and it helped me be able to speak better and function and play to my strengths, which are, math and science-based STEM. And by the time I was in high school, I didn't even feel like I had an issue. And I was doing well in all subjects and was able to go to medical school. But I speak now a lot about that, and especially in the African-American community. Get early intervention, get help. Don't ignore the issue. There is no shame in it. And if everybody was the same, wouldn't that be boring? And I do realize now, as I'm less ashamed of that being part of my story, many physicians have neurodivergence. And You know, you watch shows like The Big Bang Theory and you see Sheldon Cooper, definitely neurodivergent, you know? And so I lean into it now. And my daughter helped me with that. Because one of my biggest fears is I don't want to pass this to my kids. Well, you know, I did pass it to my children, or my children do have it. And my one daughter, that she does well in school. She's on the dean's list and everything. And I was just telling her, I'm sorry you have to deal with, you know, this neurodivergence and all this. And she's like, Mom, I love my neurospicy family. And I was like, so they reframed it. I love the way the kids are reframed it. Like, oh, I'm neurospicy. And I sometimes get a listen of some of the music they listen to, and some of the rap songs have neurospicy in it. And these kids are like embracing it, not stigmatizing it. And I love that for them.
Me too. I could not agree more. My, not to get too personal on my kids, but yeah, we've had, you know, some neurodivergence. We've had reasons to run off to therapists and psychiatrists. I felt guilty because I feel like it's genetic, but I so agree with you that the kids these days talk about everything. I'm sure there's still a stigma with mental health, but man, they are just so open to talking about getting help and talking to therapists and asking for a therapist when they're, you know, 16 years old. And I'm just so proud of them.
I think that is a positive change that's going to permeate into our generation. And I do believe that it won't be long before we can get all of the states to take that box off of the applications, and the hospitals to take it off of their applications too.
Exactly. So the Lorna Breen Foundation still needs help. It needs to recruit people to help make that happen.
It needs to recruit people, need funds always.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to the website and donate. We can't afford for any more doctors to quit. And we definitely can't afford for doctors to commit suicide.
No.
If you didn't know, we're in a crunch. We're in a crisis. There's a shortage. And that's why I feel like that's my life mission right now. Like, I've saved a lot of physical lives, but I need to save some physician lives right now. So I need to coach some through burnout. I need to let them know it's okay to not be okay. Be a beacon of light of where you can go to get help, and make safe spaces for us to get help. So I'm in the infancy of just, you know, I do the coaching now, but I'm now realizing there needs to be community. So safe places where we can discuss and exchange ideas based on region and things of that nature. So I'm trying to do that in a thoughtful way, but that's needed.
How do women reach out to you? How do they find you if they want your help?
So my website is drbstrong.this, DRBSTRONG.com. And you can request an appointment. You can sign up for my newsletter. And I like to educate weekly with the newsletter. And then, or, you know, I use Textable, where you can text the word strong to 55444. And then my assistant will reach out to you.
Oh,
but
wow.
That's the easiest way. Yeah.
That's so easy. So easy.
Yeah. I'm trying to make it easy because I'm thinking about myself. And so the person I'm helping is myself 10 years ago, you know, 15 years ago. And I wish I would have had something like this. Exactly. And so that's why I was like, and if you're talking to me 15 years ago and my kids are 5 and they were little, so they're 16 now, but you're talking to me there and they're little babies. I don't have time. I just finished at the hospital. And plus I probably have to read, and maybe I have a meeting, and you want me to do something else, make it easy. Let it be simple. And so that's why I say just text the word strong to 55444.
I love that. And I'll include that all in the show notes too. Now, there are a couple options when women are met with burnout. So they can either, you know, reach out and get help and stay in medicine, or they can just walk away altogether. And I've heard some say, you know, literally throw up their hands and say, that's it, I'm done. And they walk away. So that's a pretty important juncture there. Yeah. What would you say to that woman who's ready to throw up her hands?
I think it is a great American tragedy. Because here's why. You know, and I make men mad with this, but it's studies, and there are studies in JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, that women physicians have better outcomes. And this is tied to just communication. So generally speaking, we all know that women speak more words per day than men do. That's been proven by science. And at the end of the day, patients need to be educated and need to understand. I was taught in residency to explain to my patients if they were 2 years old. And I teach, when I'm teaching, younger residents or nurse practitioners, I say that's how you explain the diagnosis. You don't go in and give a big word like pneumoconiosis. You don't do that. Or if you do that word, then you explain what it means. I so often see patients come to the ER wasting time and resources just because they didn't understand discharge instructions from a surgical procedure or hospitalization or a new or recent diagnosis that did not warrant an ER visit. And so then I, as an ER doctor, end up educating. But women leaving medicine is tragic. I think these hospital systems need to realize that it takes a long time to make a doctor. And so you need to make some adjustments so we can keep all types of physicians on payrolls. I know that hospitals have been completely inflexible, so I've known doctors who want to do something called practice share, where two physicians want to work one practice as part-time, and hospitals will say no. I think that's a mistake because it's better to keep the doctors in practice in some capacity than not at all. And when a physician is considering quitting, I like to work with them through an exercise. I like to go through something, a tool some colleagues of mine made called the purpose discovery.
Okay.
And so it's an assessment that goes through multiple data points and helps determine your purpose. I know you're like, how is that possible? I thought the same thing until I did it myself. And when I figured out my purpose and then thought through it, and I was like, oh yeah, that jives. And then I went down the path of working with my purpose than against it. I was happier. And so that's one of my favorite things to do is to take someone through a purpose discovery journey. And a lot of times, I've never had one of my clients not have an aha moment, just kind of really uncovering why you are the way you are and the kinds of things you would be best suited to do. And so then it changes how you approach whatever it is you're doing. And I think that many people think they want to quit medicine, but they don't want to quit medicine. They probably want to quit the system. And there's a way to be a doctor without dealing with the system. There's also a way of being a doctor that many women are not taking advantage of. We have been taught to be nice, to be demure, to just go with it. But when you assert yourself and speak up, you'll find that your hospital system probably just recognizes that they need you really more than you need them and are willing to work with you and make concessions to make this journey be more of what you need.
Right.
And so I love to teach people to stand in their power.
Beautiful. So well summed up.
Thanks.
Well, I know we only have a couple minutes left. And gosh, I could talk to you all day.
And so that's what I found out when I did purpose discovery. So like I'm excellent at being a physician, but I kind of get into my zone of genius when it comes to teaching, speaking, encouraging. I noticed that in my practice because when my patients have a specific thing, I'm better at encouraging. I don't like to prescribe. I think we overprescribe. And I think a lot of times if I can have a conversation, then this is probably part of my exhaustion and burnout is because, hospital wants you to see, they want you to see people fast. But I need to talk to you so you don't keep coming back to the ER and tell you, this is what you do and this is what happens. And yes, you're going to have blood in your urine and that's okay. If you see this much, then that's bad. And just really educate her. And I think it saves dollars, even though the hospital thinks time is what you need. We need you not bouncing back to the ER. We need you to, most people don't need to see the doctor as much as they do. You don't need to access the system. It's just everybody's so anxious and undereducated about their own bodies. Yeah. I think even from a basic premise of when I was a kid, we had health classes. I feel like people don't know how to basically take care of themselves. And so there's a lot of education that needs to be had.
Right. And you are a speaker, and I will actually put a link to your TED Talk, which was phenomenal. So you're out there, you're on platforms, you're educating the public and working one-on-one with physician moms, as I understand.
Well, physicians on LinkedIn, many female executives have been reaching out to me because that wasn't my target audience. Yeah. But I realized we have the same problems. Okay. And so I work with physician executives as well. I do individual, but I like groups. I think there's magic in groups because what happens is you get resources from your man, your woman next to you. Oh, I didn't know that resource existed. Or here's a connection I want you to make. I think it'd be good for you. all while we're doing community and healing and coaching and getting what you need, plus that allyship. I think is so important.
Right. I think groups are amazing too. And like you touched on community a couple times, and that is so, so important. We are not alone.
So humans, one thing the pandemic taught us, the isolationism really hurts our psyche.
Right.
We need community. We need to be with people who support, who are allies, who understand, who get it. And we need to be exposed to like different people, like learning the different cultures and having empathy for their situations as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just being in community.
Any last words of wisdom for the audience?
I am a big proponent of prevention. I feel like you need to stay well so you don't have to get well. Especially, I feel like as we have such upheaval in government and what they want to do, we need to focus on prevention, focus on taking care of our bodies. And so when you follow me on my newsletters, I like to speak to that. And I want people to spread that to their families, friends. And so to get on my newsletters, go to my website or text the word STRONG to 55444. I also like to send out things like, for me as a Black woman, I have to learn how to, gingerly navigate things like microaggressions. So I have this one thing I give out, 5 ways to manage microaggressions. It doesn't just apply to Black women, but it applies to women in general. I know I have been in the room, seen the patient, examined him, even did a rectal exam. And as I'm walking out, he's going, so when is the doctor coming in? That kind of thing, even, in 2025, because that just happened a few months ago.
I believe that.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon.
Right. Well, I am so grateful that you had the time to sit with me today. I'm so thankful.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah.
I like doing this. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll put all the links in the show notes and people can find you and listen to you and read your book, which is coming out. Congratulations. That's coming out in April, you said? Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations. Very nice. Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Inspired Mom MDs. Please share with other physician moms and leave a review if you found value from this podcast.